Hey family, shout out to Jerry Royce Live and Positive Power 21. Make sure you check out the Weekend channel. It's not just for the weekend, but quality programming every day. Positive Power 21, feel the power. Welcome to My Journey with Paula G, where we juggle this journey called life while walking in the gifts and talents that God has given us. We are so glad that you have joined us for another episode of My Journey with Paula G. And you all know I always start each episode with a word of inspiration from one of the individuals that has been with us on this journey. And you've heard me talk about Mother Hines before. We believe, although we're not sure, but we believe she may be the oldest Gold Star mom, and that is a mother who has lost a child in combat. And Mother Hines writes, "Whatever you find to do, do it with all your might. For there is no wisdom, no knowledge, and no advice in the grave where thou goest." That's a word of wisdom right there from Mother Hines. So hopefully that has encouraged someone basically to step out on your dreams, your talents, your gifts of doing what it is that God has called you to do, and doing it with grace. As our guest today who is with us will be sharing. She's a global lifestyle strategist. She's an executive life coach. She is a 4-time author. She's a speaker. She's a facilitator of grace, feminine, and divine. She's a champion of women and girls around the world, and she is my dear friend. She is Chloe Taylor Brown. How are you?
I'm really wonderful. I'm so happy to be here with you.
And you are just looking absolutely gorgeous as always. And we didn't mention that you spent quite a number of years, I always got to throw this in there, as an international model.
Yes.
On some of the major, not some, but many.
Well, not all. There are many designers, so I didn't get to
walk
down the catwalk for everyone. But it was a great career right out of college.
Yes. So just one of the many facets of your life. And you're here with us today. I want you to share with us, describe a bit of your journey with God. You've written a book, or you wrote a book about the Valley of Grief, A Glimpse of Heaven.
Yes.
So share with us that journey.
Okay. Well, I want to back up just a little bit about my story with God. So when I was a model, I was living in Milan at the time, and I had my girl childhood dream came true. Not by accident, because I really worked hard for that.
Yes.
And I grew up in rural Mississippi, and I'm one of 8. I'm the oldest girl of 8 children. There are 4 girls and 4 boys. And my mother died in a car crash when I was 13. And so my sisters and brothers and I went to live with my grandmother. And we never went back to our house. And by the time I was 15, I started to get into trouble. But there was something that helped me, that kept me in alignment. And it was something that one of my mother's cousins said to me after her funeral. Broken, grief-stricken. She came up to me and she said, "You're tall and you have a dimple, you can be a model." And I had no clue what a model was, but it was how she looked at me, and her eyes held me, and it made me feel good. And so by the time I was 15, I found out what a model was. And so I said, "Oh, I can be that." And I don't think
just
that,
like that.
I can be that. Yeah, I can be that. But I was in rural Mississippi, and I had 2 pairs of shoes. One were flip-flops, and those weren't really shoes. So I didn't know how I was going to get to Milan from there.
Right.
But when I was 16, my Aunt Anita saved me from myself. She came to get me from my grandmother's house, and really set me on a trajectory for me to go become that, because she told me I could be whoever I wanted to be, but I had to be very intentional. And so I didn't know what intentional meant, and I had to go look that word up. And so I love words.
Yes,
and so that was
a good start.
Yeah, that was the beginning of me understanding the value of defining words. And so fast forward, I went to Mississippi State University, majored in fashion, and I had to do an internship, and so my college boyfriend at the time was drafted to the NBA, and he was going to play with the Golden State Warriors. So I was going to go to New York, but I ended up going to San Francisco and did my internship and actually became a model. And fast forward about 5 years after that, we were both living in Milan, living our dream. And we decided to have our first child at 28. We had it all planned out. We just had this amazing plan. Yeah. And after Jade was born, I would say I was about 29. I felt like I had everything, but then there was something missing. I had all the money, all the fame, all the friends, all the adventure, everything. I had a beautiful child, but something was missing. And I started just in the middle of the night being woken up by, you know what that is now, but I didn't know what it was. And then I started to become very intuitive. I would walk past the phone and pick up the phone and call my brother and tell him something that would happen. And it was just the weirdest thing. So that got me to reading scripture. Because I used to read it, but I didn't understand it. But at that point, I just devoured it. And my relationship just grew and grew and grew. And fast forward again, I had 3 children and still living my dream life and going back and forth from Milan to Paris to New York and trying to have all the kids and be married and doing all this really great life. And on September 1st, 96, our child fell in the pool and drowned, our youngest child. And so that was a tragedy. It was a crash. So everything that we had set up for our life, it just fell apart. It just started falling apart. And so I called it a paradigm crash, because a paradigm is a mold or a model of how you set your life up. And we had set up this beautiful life, and it just fell apart. And when you have a crash, or when you're grief-stricken, you're not yourself. And so when you make decisions, they're not your best decisions. So then you start to, if you're in a bad mood for a while, that's a mood. Chloe's in a mood because her child died. And then if you continue that, it becomes your temperament. Chloe 2 years ago, her child died, and that's just Chloe. And then if you continue to stay in that becomes your personality. And you are operating and creating your life from your personality. And so I don't know what it was, Paula, but I was really clever. And I guess it's like what you call yourself sagacious. And I just knew that if I didn't do something, that my life was going to be destroyed. And so I just really got on the journey of going and activating scripture. I would say to God, if this is real, I need to see it working in my life. And sure enough, it took a lot of work though, Paula. It didn't come overnight. It was some years of working.
And I think that's huge, just to pause there for a moment. I think it's huge to emphasize that, we say, go to the scriptures, pray, so forth and so on. I think it's really huge to really emphasize that.
Yeah, because
it takes work.
It's like faith without works is dead.
Yes.
So you got to activate. The word has to be made active in your life. Yes. And so I found a way to activate everything that I could get my hands on that can relate to scripture. And so because I really wanted to laugh again, authentically, because I knew that previously I had to kind of laugh that people would come from all around to see, well, who's that woman laughing? And it would just light up a room. And so my prayer was, God, please let me laugh again. Because I knew that if I could laugh again, I could get my joy back.
And you really, like you said, it was a journey. And I'm so glad that you just kind of unpacked that for us, to give us a background and, really to emphasize, like you said, when you have an experience, a week later, they're just still dealing with that experience.
Right.
Like a year later, they're still dealing with that. But then, like you said, it then manifests and becomes part of who you are. We're going to take a break, and when we come back on the flip side of that break, I want you to continue this journey of sharing with us, because you now have a wonderful platform. And it's a hashtag Keep Gracing. I love it. Hashtag Keep Gracing.
Yes.
So you want to share with us, when we come back on the flip side, your journey to and through grace, and how that is manifesting, and how you feel God is using you to share grace with others. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a moment. This is My Journey with Paula G.
Awesome.
Gabrielle Alvin has written a delightful children's book, entitled Athena, The Adventures of a Fearless Dragon. This is a heartwarming story about a little dragon born with her 2 back feet missing. And during her journey across the country, searching for a new home, she and her brothers learned to work together to survive while strengthening their sibling bond. Athena, The Adventures of a Fearless Dragon is now available on digital platforms.
Welcome back to My Journey with Paula G, where we juggle this journey called life while walking in the gifts and talents that God has given us. And before the break, Chloe was sharing with us a bit about her journey and how she had this wonderful life, a husband and children and career and jet setting around the world, and how a tragedy turned all of that around, and how it all just came crashing down. Her world shattered, and how she rose from that, how she rose from those ashes to where she is today. So share with us how and why grace is so important.
Well, for me, grace is everything.
Yes.
I think Jesus is grace. That's the ultimate grace. So there's a feminine and divine grace. And I've always been told I was feminine. I always loved to be feminine. There was one of my favorite designers that just would design clothes and tell me to walk and just be feminine. So I researched feminine grace and divine grace, and I realized that
And those are 2 different things.
they're 2 different things, and it's not just for women.
Yes.
Because
I'm glad you said that.
yeah, and
Emphasize
so it's
not
just that
for women.
when I think about grace of a man, I think about President Barack Obama.
Okay.
And see, there's a feminine side to men as well, and if we could balance that out, men could just be more powerful than who they are in a very graceful way.
Yeah.
So grace is everything to me, and while I've been coaching and speaking and sharing, in March there was a conversation about grace, and then there was another conversation about grace, and I started digging and looking up and defining and researching, and I just couldn't get enough. And then by April, I said, well, I'm going to share this, because I was used to sharing with women and girls, and so I created my little platform, and I sent out the invitations, and people came, and they wanted to hear, and they were just so amazed at how that could apply to their life, and how they could take this grace that has already been given to us and wrap our individuality, which is the stamp of you that you come here with, your stamp, and then create the personality that can help us to manifest our dreams. Because we create our reality out of our personality.
We create our reality out of our personality. That's deep.
Yes, we create our personal reality out of our personality. So if I'm talking about myself being the model, being that exuberant, naive, fresh, having big dreams and going out to create it, I did the work, it didn't just happen. And that was very powerful. And I had to create the personality, because the personality that I took to San Francisco from Mississippi did not work. I had a college girl's Mississippi personality. The clothing and everything did not equate to the urbanity and the sophistication that I needed to have to be a model in San Francisco. So I had to do the work again, and I really didn't know how, Paula. I was depressed, but I was smart enough again to know I need some help. So let me just go to the yellow pages and find me a psychologist. And I did, and I went to the psychologist, and I got it after 4 visits. I was really afraid to be the best that I could be. I was afraid, and he told me why, because I wanted everybody to like me. I didn't want to be too good. And a lot of women struggle with holding ourselves back from being our best, because
we don't want somebody to think, who does she think she is?
Exactly. And so when he told me that, it dawned on me. So right away I went out to get 2 amazing books. The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz, and Shakti Cowan was creative visualization. So I visualized myself of how I wanted to be, and I would look at the magazines and take her head off and put my head on her, and honestly, that creative visualization made me feel good. And so we've got to pay attention to our feelings. Feel good. You got to have a desire that you feel good about. And when you feel good about what you want, that's over half the work.
Right. And I love what you said about visualizing what it is that you want. Like, what does your perfect day look like?
Exactly.
And then what does it take to make that happen? What are the steps that I need to take to manifest that perfect day? Because it is doable.
And what's the personality type? What little things I need to do to tweak my personality? Right. So for instance, I love telling stories about being a model because that was I had to stretch myself to be that. And even in being a coach, I wasn't a coach, but I was always, coachy and like sharing and encouraging people. So I had to stretch myself for that too. But when I got to Milan and I went to go for a go-see, they called it, to get booked for a job for Giorgio Armani. I went on the wrong day. That was good for me in the end, but I was the only model there. Right. And Giorgio Armani's assistant came out and he was saying, "You're early, you're the whole day early." But he kept feeling my shoulders because this was in the 80s, guys. Right. And they had shoulder pads. And so he was feeling my shoulders. And he was like, "Oh, those are your real shoulders?" And so he left and he brought Giorgio Armani in to see me. And they booked me for a job. But if I had gone to Giorgio Armani with the old personality, those traits, I had to go as the model that Giorgio wanted me to be. Yes. And so I showed up as that. When I go into Home Depot to coach, I have to show up as the executive coach. If I'm hanging out with the girlfriends, I'm showing up as girlfriend. And I learned my kids never want the coach, they never want the model, they only want the mommy. So there are different roles that we play.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's so important, and we all have to realize that, we all have these different personalities inside of us, and it doesn't, suggest that we're crazy. But, we all have, like you said, these different personalities. When we visualize these things that we want in our life, we have to reach inside and pull that personality out.
And sometimes it may not be there, and you have to create it.
Yes.
It may not be there, but you want to accomplish something so bad that you're willing to stretch yourself. And right when you're saying that oh God, I can't do this, you got to keep going. You know how it is when you work out.
Yes, that's that moment when you're stretched. You hit that plateau, like you said, just like when you're working out. Working out, and you hit that moment where you feel like you can't go any further. But you have to find that thing inside of you that then takes you to the next level.
I was listening to one of your previous shows, and your guest said that she didn't want to read her own book. Yeah. Well, when I wrote the story of my memoir of how I got through the tragedy and to the other side of Justin's death, it's you can get that book anywhere, but it's called I Can Laugh Again, because when I was writing it, it's please God, let me laugh again. And when I got ready to publish it, I've been laughing. I can laugh again. And you have to do the work, and you can laugh again.
You can laugh again. Wow. It's such a powerful testimony, and it's when I hear it, it's often inspiring, encouraging, and that's why I so much wanted you to share with the audience, because there's so many of us, again, those dreams and those gifts that are buried inside of us that we don't know how to reach inside of us to pull that dream out, to pull that vision out, to make it, to actualize it. We have to realize that we do have those things.
And this is why we need to have someone to help us. We need a coach or a psychologist or a good friend or, mama, someone that we can share our heart's desires with, and they will see it with us.
And help us through that.
Exactly. Encourage us, not to say, "What? Do you think you're dreaming too big?" No, don't hang out with those types of people. Love them, but when you're working on something, you want to be with positive people. And one thing that I've learned too, birds of a feather flock together.
They flock together. So how can we continue to flock together with Chloe Taylor Brown? Share with us your website, social media.
ChloeTaylorBrown.com is my website, and on social media, Chloe Taylor Brown, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and also LinkedIn, Chloe Taylor Brown.
Yes. And you'll also recognize Chloe with her hashtag keep gracing.
Yes.
And I encourage everyone to keep gracing and to continue to walk in that gift. Like I always say, walk in that gift that God has given you and pursue what it is that He has placed inside of you. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of My Journey with Paula G. Until next time, embrace the journey.
Greetings and thank you for tuning in to My Journey with Paula G. We'd like to thank our underwriters, the Good Actor Studio of Marietta, Georgia, my coffee shop at East Lake, Pastors Time International Bible College, Augusta, Georgia, with Dr. Paul and Marcia Kelly, Creekside Dental Incorporated of Douglasville, Georgia, Lusu Designs with Brandon Sampson of Maryland, Survival Radio Network and Clicks Photography by Clark Garrison, and Positive Power XXI Christian Media and Radio Network with Journey Was Live worldwide. We hope you enjoyed this presentation and tune in again. Embrace the journey with Paula G.
Greetings. I am Paula G. Boyce, host of My Journey with Paula G, which is expanding as we speak, growing on a number and a variety of digital platforms. Underwriting is a great way to gain exposure for your business, product, or service, and My Journey with Paula G is a great place for you to take that journey. So if you are interested in underwriting, please email us, jerryroycelive@gmail.com or paula@paulagvoice.com to explore underwriting opportunities to hopefully expand your business, product, or service. Until then, embrace the journey. It is time to celebrate. This is Paula G, and we are celebrating our 100th episode of My Journey with Paula G. Joining us for the celebration, our guests, the legendary Williams Brothers with their iconic traditional gospel music. They have ministered to us for more than 6 decades, and collectively and individually, they've rendered numerous Grammy and Emmy nominations, Stellar Awards, and Lifetime Achievement Awards. They are best known for I'm Just a Nobody, Still Here, Sweep Around, Cooling Waters, and so much more. We are so grateful and thankful for this 100th episode. We are so grateful and thankful for your continued support of My Journey with Paula G. Shout out to Positive Power 21 and Jerry Voice Live for embracing us on this journey. We continue to inspire, we continue to encourage, we continue to juggle this journey called life while walking in the gifts and talents that God has given us. Thank you so much for being a part of the journey. And remember, the greatest conversation that you will ever have is the one that takes place in between your ears. What are you speaking to yourself? Is God a part of that conversation? And are you listening to His still, small voice? 100th episode. Thank you all for tuning in, for listening, and for joining the journey.